Be ready.
Okay, here we go. Episode 26. Continuing with our theme of life. Dude, when I was 26, I was just leaving. I'd already done 3 platoons at Team 1, and I was leaving to go be a buzz instructor in 3rd phase. And so that was kind of a big change for me. And then also I bought my first house.
At 26?
Yeah,
Nice.
but it was also like, I think it was around 2007 or something like that. So maybe I'm fucking it up, but 2006 yeah. Anyway, it was like the worst time to buy a house ever.
Where was it?
Chula Vista, like
Okay.
East Lake area.
Nice.
But I think I have like PTSD from the real estate market because I haven't bought a house since. And I'm just so turned off from real estate for the last fucking, what is that? Fucking 12 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back into it, can't be, scared all the time.
Well, I was 26. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, all right.
So,
Big 27 now,
yeah,
dude. All right.
I'm
Yeah,
27 next week. So,
There
yeah,
we
man,
go.
it's what was I doing? I was still in the beginning stage of my business, So, but now,
Good.
Still working on it.
It's a good place to be, man.
Yeah, man.
It's a good place to be. Speaking of beginning stages, the topic today is going to be when to quit your day job for your side hustle or your passion project or whatever it is. This was actually a question that was sent in, and it was pretty good. I think the way it was phrased was, I think he was phrasing it as like, okay, I've got a passion project and something that makes me money. How do I know how to split my time and, do both? And the fact is that you can do both 100%, just not at the same time, because you can't give 100% to both. But what you can do is give 90% to your primary job and 10% of your time to your side hustle as you started out. And then as it grows, 80% to your main job and 20% to your side hustle until that 100% is spread out in the opposite ratio. And then once your side hustle is big enough to support your main expenses, that's usually the time to jump. Mm-hmm. And it sounds pretty simple, but here's how I fucked that up. many things. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's what you do, but that's not what I did. So there's basically 2 schools of thought when it comes to when to leave your day job or whether to have a day job or not. A lot of people call it having a plan B or a fallback plan. And it sounds super sexy to just be like, oh, fuck that. Don't have a plan B, burn the boats, all or nothing, go, go, go. Sounds really cool. In reality, there's very few times I would actually recommend that plan. And here's why. Most businesses are not profitable enough to live on for at least 2 to 3 years after they're started. So if you got a good job, making decent money, it's very unlikely that your business is going to be able to offset that cost or that lifestyle in the first couple months. So unless you have a couple years worth of savings, saved up, I would really not recommend just the cold turkey, burn the boats, jump off the bridge and go all in, because there's a lot of shit that comes up, especially the first couple years in business, and you're figuring a lot of things out. It's never as easy as it seems. And it's very nice to have that fallback. Not that you need to, disassociate or stop your passion project or your side project, but when you come into roadblocks, it's very nice to have the income from your primary job to support that. The way I screwed that up was that I had actually interesting thing, just to lay out some background on this. So I got out of active duty in 2008, and I was a active SEAL of team for 6 years, and then I was a buzz instructor in 3rd phase for about 3.5 years. So it was roughly just over 10 years that I was in. And when I got out, I took a job as a civilian instructor in the SQT pipeline. So BUDS is the first 6 to 7 months of training. And then after that, there's 6 to 7 months of what's called SQT, SEAL qualification training. And it just happened to fall at a kind of a weird time where the op tempo was high for active duty SEALs. So they took on some civilian instructors, not as contractors, but as DOD employees. So it was actually GS, I think 11 or something like that. And I was there for teaching SQT for 9 years, something like that.
Damn.
So yeah, from 2008 until the very last day of 2016. So like, yeah, 8.5 years. That's what I was doing. So from the first Buds class that I taught as third phase instructor was 252 in, I think, 2005, something like that. And then the last Buds class that I instructed was 318. So every student from 2005 till 2016, I was either a third phase instructor or a SQT instructor for them.
Jeez.
So yeah, the dubious honor of the longest serving Buds instructor of all time in the history of naval special warfare. So I learned a lot about that, mainly how much I sucked at so many things that I thought I was good at back in the day. But it was cool. I got a lot better from that process. Helped me a lot with not public speaking, because I still don't want to public speak, but just being in front of people and being comfortable, like more comfortable talking. So that helped. But the reason I bring this up is that I was, as a GS, I think, including our overtime and stuff, I was making about $100,000 a year, and our schedule was very, very simple. It was just like, I'd work for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, and I'd have like 2 or 3 weeks off. And even when I was working, we'd have a lot of time where I could be on communication. I couldn't go anywhere, but I'd have a lot of time to like be on my phone or do emails and things like that. So so during this time, I started Forge with Mike in 2007. I sold my half of that in 2012. And then it was Disciples of Iron that I started and sold. And then Demon Bells, I started, I think, like 2010 and sold in 2014. So I started and sold like 3 businesses while I still had that day job as a SQT instructor. And then I started industry because I was like, well, I sold all this stuff, and like, I don't really know what am I going to do next. And a friend of mine was having trouble starting an apparel line. He was starting it, but he was kind of struggling. He was doing like $100,000 a year in sales, but just like really not moving the needle and having just a whole bunch of issues. And he's kind of getting fucked by his website developers, getting fucked by his manufacturers, getting fucked by everybody. So I came in and I'm like, look, man, I really love what you're doing. I love the brand. I can help you with this stuff. And then from that process, I kind of realized like, oh, there's probably a lot of brands that need this. And that's kind of how Industry Threadworks was born. I was just helping out a friend. And that's still kind of what we do today, basically, just help out our friends. But that was, man, I want to say like 2013 or something like that, 14 something. And so I'd started it for like a year or two. And
you're still in
not active duty, but a Department of Defense, like GS-11, still had a day job. So I was running industry for a couple of years, actually. And I had the day job, and then I had my side hustle on the side. And at first it was easy because I'm like, dude, this is great. I just do emails and I'll go to the shop once in a while. And I didn't have any overhead or infrastructure or anything because we weren't doing fulfillment at the time. I was just helping out with managing production. And I was like, cool, this is great. It only takes, a couple hours a week and we make good money on it. And because we had, no overhead, it was almost all profit. So I was like, cool, this is great. And then once it started to take off and we had more responsibility, it got bigger, hired Disney on to help me out with kind of just managing all the, the volume of stuff that we got to be doing. And the hours started to take a toll on like how many hours I had in the day and how many hours I had to commit to that job versus my primary job. And the last couple months, probably like the last 6 to 9 months, I was, I'd get up at like 5 a.m., 4:30 in the morning. I'd go to the print shop, approve the stuff, make sure like the Pantone colors are correct, everything's sized appropriately, like QC everything, make sure it's done, package it up, send it off to client. And then I'd be at the office at like, 8 a.m. I'd do whole days of work, and then I'd come home and I'd be on my computer till like, 11 o'clock or midnight sometimes. So I was running out of time, man. I just didn't have, like, I was maxed out on all my shit. But I was too much of a pussy to quit my day job because I'm like, dude, I don't know if this Industry Threadworks is going to work. And I was still making, decent money at the SQT job. And I was like, fuck, dude, and it's a government job. So it's like super stable.
Yeah.
That's a big
I bet
safety
the
net.
benefits were pretty good.
It's all right. I never used that shit anyway. I never went to the VA or any of that stuff. So benefits probably were good, but I just didn't use any of that shit. Yeah. So the last 6 months, I was not as good at my job as my primary job as I should have been, because I was distracted with, the side project was taking up too much time. And I was too much of a pussy to jump. I should have jumped 6 months earlier than I did, because it started to impact, the time crunch started to impact my primary job. And it was like, I take a lot of pride in being good at what I do. And it bothered me that I wasn't performing at the level that I wanted to. And that was the point where I'm like, dude, I gotta go. So that's when I decided to quit.
Can I ask you, like, what were those things that were because you're a proud person of like what you want to be the best at, like when you're doing a good job, you want to make sure, like, what was taking away, or of course the industry was, but like,
what was I fucking up?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a matter of perspective. The other instructors at the time probably have a different take on it, but we were running diving ops at the time. So I was one of the instructors in charge of the underwater operations, like scuba basically, but it's not scuba, it's rebreathers. And so I would run a lot of shit because I would see things that needed to get done and I just go do them. And so I would pick up the slack for a lot of people. And honestly, I just got fucking tired of it. I'm like, dude, I'm busier than all you motherfuckers. I have all this shit going on. Like, I'm driving my Lamborghini into the instructor parking lot every day. I'm like, bro, I have real shit going on. Like, I'm still cleaning up your fucking slack because, like, you didn't check this, you didn't check this, you don't have this covered, you don't have, you're like, these kids' literally lives in our hands. I'm like, bro, I take that very fucking seriously. You have to. And they're kind of slacking on a bunch of shit, and they're just used to me covering everything because that's what I did. I just solve problems. So, and I could see the problems ahead of time and then put solutions in place so the problems didn't occur. Same thing I do at industry. And I got sick of it. And finally I'm like, dude, all right, I'll run one and I'm just going to do what you guys do. I'm just going to do the bare minimum and sit there and you guys handle all the shit that you're supposed to do anyway. And they got mad at me. They got mad and they went to my supervisor. This is like a good friend of mine too. He's like, he went to my supervisor like, oh, Ryan's slacking. I had to have a conversation with my supervisor, who's also a good friend, good dude. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, man, I'm not slacking. It's just that I didn't cover for their slack this one time and they fucking bitch about it. So that was another indicator to me like, okay, I'm not, number one, I'm not performing optimally and I'm getting pissed about shit that like, I really shouldn't be pissed about, and it's putting my relationships on the line. I'm like, this is not fun for me, and I don't want to. It's not adding to my life anymore. So that was one of the reasons I left. But the key takeaway that I think might be useful for some of the viewers here is I had a day job from 2007 until 2016, and I sold 3 companies in that time. It wasn't until industry was, I think, must have been year 2, or was fully functioning, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump on this and go 100% all in. And once I did, it immediately made up all the money that I was making at the day job because I was able to commit, an extra 6 to 8 hours a day to growing industry. And once I did that, it made up for the cost difference, like, in a couple months. So it worked out well. But if I had immediately quit, like the first 6 months when I started industry, I'm like, oh, fuck my day job. I'm gonna go all in, burn the boats. Like, dude, it wouldn't have worked.
Why is that?
Well, because another benefit of having a side hustle while you do your main hustle is that you pay your bills. You don't have to eat off your side hustle.
Yeah.
So you can pay all your shit and like live off your main job. And so that means that every dollar that comes in from your side hustle, you just roll back into growth. So you can grow it so much faster if you're not pulling money out to eat off of it. So that's another reason why I like the approach of having a day job and then a side hustle. It's not just a safety net. Like, pragmatically, you can really grow a company a lot faster if you're not pulling money out to like pay rent and fucking eat. And also too, it allows you to make more long-term decisions. Like, you make a different decision if you know that you're putting, $10,000 into, okay, this will pay off in 9 months or a year when we're gonna be a lot bigger, versus, fuck, I gotta make payroll, I gotta make rent, I gotta do the lease, I gotta buy product. So it allows you to think differently and think more long-term, which also helps grow faster.
I was gonna say, so like, what was your schedule when you're, because that's what people are probably wondering. I wonder too. What was your schedule? You said a little bit in the beginning of like you woke up at like what 5 and you did like stuff for industry in the mornings. Then you go to the main office and then get home and just be on the computer all night.
Not every day, but there was a lot of days during the week that looked like that. And the weekends were just catching up on stuff, on emails, and it was just a lot of work. Part of that too is that, I mean, I have a lot more time now, but we just got a lot more efficient with our stuff. And shit that would take me, you know, when I first started doing all this production stuff in like 2008, stuff that would take me like 10 hours, I can do in like 10 minutes now. So we're way more effective with the time that we have.
So is that just like, cause going back to like what I do is like video, right? For me, like overhead's great. I don't have any overhead. It's like I go film, I buy the equipment and I have it on a credit card, business card, whatever, and I can pay that off slowly. And then I go do a project for quite a bit of money or just a couple with like cheap and the overhead and the return's good on me, right? But maybe that's just in the aspect of like, I don't have responsibilities. I don't have kids. The only thing I have is rent and things like that. So it's like, when I took my jump, I wasn't like, oh, like I had nothing. It was more like, no, I want to have like 6 months of savings. You know, I had a certain amount of savings where I was like, this is just to have first savings. This is like backup in case like I need to pick a little bit while I'm still figuring it out. But like the return of when I was doing a video, it was like great overhead or like great return for me. So it's one of those things I think, do you think it just depends on what industry, what niche you're in when it comes to like, or even just position wise in life to take that first jump? Because I feel like some people are like, I want to wait a couple of years.
Well, it depends on a couple of things. The overhead is huge. Like that's a huge factor. I sold Demon Bells in 2014. So I had, you know, a decent amount of money from that in the bank, which is what allowed me to be more comfortable leaving my day job. And that's what I mean. Like you make different decisions when you have money in the bank. And I don't think I would have been as okay or comfortable making that leap if I was still living like paycheck to paycheck. So having that sale and that exit prior to making that decision really helped me. And at the time, we didn't have a whole lot of overhead. I mean, a Lamborghini, but that's, you know, $3,000 a month is not, when you're running a business, like, I mean, that's literally less than 1% of what we do now. So it's like for me to fluctuate that or pull that out is fairly easy. It's not a stretch, you know, even though it was almost the same as what our rent was at the time. But our whole life at that time was like, I think we're paying like $3,200 in rent and the car was $3,000 and we didn't really do too much. I'm like, you know, we could live on $100,000, you know, after tax. So it wasn't crazy. But that was a big factor for me. And I think that's something that definitely got to take into consideration is what your overhead is and how much money you have in the bank. And also too, you got to take a real look at how fast you're going to be able to recover the missing money from that primary job. Is say you spend 8 hours a day on your primary job. If you spend 8 hours a day on your business, is it going to pay you the same amount and make up the difference in pay? Usually yes, but like you said, it depends on the type of business. One thing that I also screwed up is that maybe this will be useful for you too. When I set my prices initially for production, when I had no overhead. So I was like, dude, this is great. I can leverage the volume that we're doing and the smooth processes that we have to get lower prices. And then we'll just live in the margin. I can still get my clients like fantastic prices, sometimes even cheaper than the print shops would allow independently. And I was like, cool, this is great. Everybody's like, clients are winning, print shops are winning, I'm winning, like it works fantastic. But what I didn't do is build in enough margin to pay for overhead. So now that we have significant amount of overhead, I didn't have the margin to pay for that stuff. So as soon as we got, you know, a warehouse, started to get employees, started to get racks and all this the shit that comes with like an actual business.
To scale. All that.
Yeah. I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, fuck, I don't have the margin built in to do this. So I think what I should have done looking back was anticipate, okay, what's this company going to look like in 3 years, 5 years? What infrastructure requirements are going to have? How many people am I going to have on staff to do the capabilities we have? What assets am I going to have in place? Like how big of a warehouse do I have to have? How many racks do I need to do? Like really think it out.
Yeah.
And then think, okay, what's that cost roughly per month? And then, okay, I need to build that margin into my prices because I didn't do that before. And dude, it's it's awkward when you look at it. You're like, cool, we're making money, and then your margin is fucking gone on all your overhead.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a mistake I made.
That's a great one for me, because that's where like kind of figuring out more price points with the more things we add to our business for like clients to pick up and buy. But already have, it's like they always say, like build your business before you build, or build the life before you build your business. So you understand like that's something I even think of, you know, and making sure that your margins still make sense. Even right now, let's just say our margins right there to just build the clientele is going to be this for only 6 months. And then we got to adjust it into it, because in the next 2 years, we're going to be having a bigger warehouse, you know? So that makes a lot more sense. That's
and you don't have to be super accurate with it. Yeah. I think I just didn't think about it at all, which is stupid looking back, but that's, I mean, maybe I'm an idiot with it and everybody else does it, but I just didn't do it. And it kind of bit me in the ass, because we ran out of margin. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, we're basically have all these clients, and there were points like we were just breaking even on shit.
So we're covering margins. And then now I have a question like that I needed help with in the beginning. I know people do too, is stability, right? You have a full-time job, and then you have your hustle, and you're like, oh, let's run this full-time. And it starts out growing, and you're like, this is perfect. You take that jump. Then you start to lose those clients, and then you're in like the shit show. So
super
like,
scary.
So how do you like deal with that?
I think sometimes it's a timing issue. Like some people want to jump too early, and they haven't really tested the theory. Like what happens when things don't go right? What happens when you lose clients? What happens when things like don't go as planned, which is, you know, what usually happens in business.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important to have a little bit of a track record. Not so other people trust you, but so that you trust yourself, because you have to have an honest assessment of like, okay, is this going to work? And if you've only been doing it for like 3 months, it's real sketchy to quit your job, like going all in.
Yeah, right.
You have 3 good months, a great quarter. One great quarter does not make a business, you know? So I would say if you can ride that, use it as a side hustle and leverage your main job to pay all the bills, for honestly, as long as you can. I think the apex point where it makes sense to jump off is as soon as the time that you're spending on your main job is impacting the time that you would be able to spend on your side project. That's the point where you need to commit to making a jump. Either, you know, because also you can do both forever, but it's kind of one of those things like, why even start? You know what I mean? Like you just want a side hustle that makes a couple of $1,000 extra a month. Like that's great, but is that really worth the time? Like, are you in a business, or are you an employee in a business where if you spent that extra time becoming a better employee and moving up the ladder, maybe you could get that money that you're looking for by staying in your main job? Because a side hustle, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You know, it sounds sexy and cool, but there's a lot of volatility, and it's tough, dude. And most people don't fully understand how difficult it is until they're in it. So that's why I think like having it as a side hustle is a really good, like kind of, you're not doing a cannonball off the deep end right away. You're like, oh, I'm gonna dip my toes in, and go up to the knees. You're like, okay. And then you get in the kiddie pool and you're like swimming around like, okay, I can do this. Because otherwise, you know, say you have your side hustle for 3 months and you just quit and go all in. Like, dude, you just jumped off the high dive into the fucking ocean, dude. Like, good luck. Like, I hope you just inherently know how to swim.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah, because otherwise it's gonna be a real fucking eye opening. So that's been my perspective on it. Like I said, I was too much of a pussy and should have jumped 6 months earlier. But also, I'm really glad that I waited, you know, about 2 years before I jumped, because we had the stability to, you know, I was fairly confident that not only would it work, but it would make up the money that I was losing from quitting my day job.
That's tough, man. Because I think it's not knowing, like having that full control, right? You're so used to the idea of the comfortability and stability of your day job.
Government job is real comfortable, dude. That's for sure.
And even if it's just one of those things where it's your side hustle and you enjoy it, but the idea of like, oh man, like if I don't want to work on today, like that's okay. But like I have work tomorrow, but that my main job will be there tomorrow, and it's going to pay that Friday, and it's going to do that. And I can just get drunk on the weekends. Like, you know, like it's one of those things, it's a scary fucking jump.
Well, there's that too, man. Like you don't necessarily have to jump. Like if you have a day job that pays the bills and you have like a passion project that you really like doing, but you're not sure you want to make it an actual job, it's totally fine to just do both. Just have something that, if you can turn your hobby, your passion into something that makes you money on the side, maybe that's a perfect combo. Maybe that's a perfect fit in a mix where like you can have both. It's just the thing is like you can't grow the side hustle unless you leave the main gig. But if you don't want to grow it and you just want to have fun and have a passion project, that's totally fine too. You know, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Mm-hmm. It's such a personal choice though. You know, I mean, I feel like and maybe you feel the same way, I had no other fucking choice. Like I have to go do my own shit. Mm-hmm. Like I might be able to work with somebody for like a short time on like a specific project to like help them attain metrics or do a certain thing. But I love the autonomy of being able to do my own shit, whether it's right or wrong, because I love learning. I love the process of figuring out like how I can get better, how I can make the company better, like make the employees better. Like just there's so many aspects to it that it's just constant fucking growth, which is one of the things I love about it. Mm-hmm. And you can get some of that as an employee, but for me, that is the passion.
I agree. I feel like when I was in places, some places there's no cap. Mm-hmm. There's exponential growth. Like you can do it everything, but then majority that felt like cap to me. Like it felt like a lie. Like I felt like I couldn't do anything. But to me, I was like, I want to have no cap. I want to be able to no ceiling, do what I want to do. But that's okay because I'm bringing that stress on myself, and I'll deal with those fires. I'll put those out, and I'll handle it because I put it on myself. Yeah. That's what I want, and that's what I need. But that's why I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think you just have to have, you just kind of built a little bit different. You know, you have to want a little more adventure than the average person. Mm-hmm. There's reasons some people are pirates and some people are in the fucking British Navy. You know, there's a fucking difference. I would have been a fucking pirate.
I know I have a lot of friends hit me up like, so how is it owning your own business?
Yeah. Like, oh, you get to set your own hours. That was the best one.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean all of them?
Yeah. They'll hit me up. You want to play? You want to go out and like drink or something? I can't. Why?
You're your own boss. Which is funny because you don't realize how funny that is until you go through it and you're like, oh my God, just don't get it.
You don't get it.
Yeah.
Yep. You're your own boss. You can do that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. All right. Well, kind of. Technically, yes, but actually, no. Yeah.
It's true, man. And like you said, it's a different animal, and only there's few people that understand it because you'll die off if you automatically think like, oh, I'm my own boss.
Yeah.
And then like a week goes by and you're like, I'm still my own boss. And like, what are you doing?
Or you're stuck in that beginning stage, which, for some people is you have the lifestyle business is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a different mentality. And I feel like you're kind of building a different boat. And like when our boat was smaller, we didn't need to invest. I didn't need to save money for fucking big ass sails and oars and all this shit because we don't fucking have anything. Yeah. It's like we're just gonna cruise around on a rowboat and like have a good time. Oh, look at all this fucking money we're making.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I needed to stack capital to build a bigger boat because where I wanted to go out on the open ocean, I need a big fucking boat, dude. I can't take a rowboat out there. I need a fucking freighter. So that's what we built, but I needed to actually build in margins to find a freighter. Yeah. Lesson learned.
Hell yeah, man. Well, that was good.
I think it's a good topic.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so you guys are listening to this. I've had a lot of conversations with people in DM and actually in person too. Surprising amount of people
great.
I talked to at the gym. Yeah.
That's
like,
crazy.
Hey, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, you listen to the podcast? Like, awesome. Thanks, bro.
YouTube? You watch us?
Yeah. All right, cool. Awesome. You and 7 people. But I think it's very useful. I mean, I know I would get a lot of this mainly because, selfishly, I wish I had something like this because it's all the mistakes that I made. But this is here for you guys. Ultimately, this thing is here for the benefit of you guys. So please hit us up and let us know what you guys would like to hear, whether that's a DM or an email, and we're pretty easy to find and reach. Yeah. But this whole topic came from somebody DMing me. And so, yeah, reach out. Let us know what you guys are struggling with. We don't always have the answers. In fact, we don't have any answers. No. This is especially this topic is a very personal one that you're going to have to figure out, what the right balance is and the right timing for you. But at least, I think us sharing our experiences will help you you can overlay that over your own experience and kind of map out what you're seeing and what may or may not happen in different timelines for you. And hopefully that's helpful. And that's kind of how I think most of these questions and answers go is like, there is no right or wrong answer. It's just like, hey, I went through this portion of it, and here's what I learned, and here's what I would have done different looking back. I find those the most useful Q&A when I'm listening to other people's as well. But shoot us some questions.
Yeah.
We need more questions, to be honest.
Yeah.
Shoot us some topics and questions or things you guys are struggling with.
Or me and Ryan are just going to talk about aliens again.
That's right, dude. Yeah.
That was still great. That was a good time. But no, we definitely appreciate you guys, and we want to be able to help. We want to bring as much value as we can, because we know you spend time listening to it.
Yeah.
So we want to bring as much value as we can.
Yeah, you guys are investing your time and listening to our beautiful voices.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it. So let us know how we can help you guys more.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. Shake and bake.